If you can't pay your way, find somewhere else.
The door slammed shut with a sound like a gunshot, and the 13-year-old girl stood frozen in the hallway that smelled like mildew and defeat, clutching a canvas bag that held everything she owned in the world. Inside was her mother's recipe notebook, the only proof that she had ever been loved, ever belonged to anyone, ever mattered at all. Outside, Chicago's winter waited to swallow her whole, but she didn't know yet that the flickering neon sign 3 blocks away would save her life, cost an old woman her final piece, and bind them both to a ghost who had been dead for 25 years. Welcome to Story Theater. Take your seat, silence your phones, and get ready to enjoy the story. The hallway smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke, mixed with something sour that Anna Collins could not quite identify. She pressed her back against the peeling wallpaper, feeling the rough texture through her thin jacket. Her fingers gripped the strap of her worn canvas bag so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. The fluorescent light overhead flickered and buzzed, casting jerky shadows across her pale face. She was 13 years old, but in this moment, standing in this dim corridor with nowhere left to go, she looked smaller. Much smaller. Her dark hair hung in tangled strands around her thin shoulders, still damp from the melted snow that had clung to it hours before. Her aunt stood in the doorway of apartment 3C, arms crossed tight over her chest like a barrier. The woman's face was hard, deeply lined with years of disappointment and cheap vodka. Her lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. Her eyes held no warmth, no softness. Behind her, the apartment glowed with warm yellow light that spilled into the hallway. Anna could see the corner of the television, its screen flickering with images of people laughing. She could hear the canned laughter from some sitcom. It was a world that no longer included her. It was warmth and light and shelter, and it was being taken away. Anna's throat felt tight, constricted. She swallowed hard, trying to find words. Any words that might change what was happening. She wanted to say she was sorry. Sorry for eating too much food. Sorry for using too much electricity. Sorry for existing, for needing, for being a burden. But the words stuck in her throat. Her hands trembled as she clutched the bag closer to her chest. Inside was everything she owned. 3 shirts, all too thin for winter. 2 pairs of jeans with worn knees. Underwear and socks rolled into tight balls. And beneath it all, wrapped carefully in a plastic grocery bag, her mother's recipe notebook. The aunt shifted her weight, and the floorboard creaked under her worn slippers. The sound was loud in the silence between them. Her eyes were cold, empty of anything resembling sympathy or guilt. When she spoke, her voice cut through the stale air, like a knife through butter, sharp and final. If you can't pay your way, find somewhere else. The words hit Anna like a physical blow. Her chest tightened, her lungs refusing to expand. For a long moment, she could not breathe. The world seemed to tilt sideways. She opened her mouth to speak, to beg, to promise she would do better. Be quieter, need less, take up less space. But before any sound could escape her lips, the door swung shut with a force that rattled the entire frame. The deadbolt clicked into place with a sound like a gunshot. Then the chain slid home, metal scraping against metal. Anna stood frozen, her body locked in place. She stared at the scratched wood of the door, at the years of damage etched into its surface. Her reflection stared back from the dull brass numbers screwed into the wood. 3C. She could still hear the television inside, still hear her aunt's heavy footsteps. Moving away from the door, back toward the couch. Back toward the warmth and the light. Her knees felt weak, unsteady. She sank down onto the cold tile floor, not caring about the dirt or the chill that seeped through her jeans. Her bag slid into her lap, its weight suddenly unbearable. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, dim and uninviting. Doors lined both sides, each one closed. Somewhere above her, a baby cried with the endless wail of the very young. A couple argued behind thin walls, their voices muffled but sharp with anger. The building was full of people, packed with families and lives being lived. But Anna had never felt more alone. She sat there for a long time. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time lost all meaning in that narrow corridor. Her body grew cold from the floor, but she did not move. Finally, when the numbness in her legs became unbearable, Her fingers found the zipper of her bag. She pulled it open slowly, the sound loud in the empty hallway. She reached inside, pushing past the folded clothes, past the toothbrush. Wrapped in a washcloth, until her hand closed around the notebook. It was small, spiral-bound, with a faded blue cover that had once been bright. The edges were worn soft from years of handling. Anna pulled it out carefully, as if it might crumble in her fingers. On the front, written in her mother's looping handwriting, were the words Sarah's kitchen. Anna's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. She blinked hard, forcing them back. Not here, not now. She opened the notebook, and the familiar scent rose from the pages. Vanilla and cinnamon and something that smelled like home. Her mother had tucked dried herbs between some of the sheets. Rosemary, thyme, lavender. The recipes were written in pencil, some smudged. Some annotated with little notes in the margins. Best on rainy days. Add extra butter. Grace loved these. Grace, Anna's older sister. Gone now, like their mother. Like their father before that. Like everyone who was supposed to love her, to keep her safe. This notebook was all that remained. A collection of ingredients and instructions. Moments captured in flour and sugar. Anna traced her finger over her mother's handwriting, feeling the slight indent of the pencil on the yellowed paper. She could almost hear her mother's voice reading the words aloud. Almost, but not quite. The memory was fading, and that terrified her. She closed the notebook gently and tucked it back into her bag. Then she stood, slowly, her legs stiff from sitting on the cold floor. She zipped the bag shut, the sound echoing. She slung it over her shoulder, feeling its weight. She walked toward the stairwell, her footsteps echoing off the walls. She did not look back at apartment 3C. There was nothing there for her now. Just another closed door. Outside, the Chicago winter hit her like a wall of ice. The wind howled between the buildings, carrying snow that felt like tiny needles. Snow fell in thick, heavy flakes, swirling in patterns that made her dizzy. Anna pulled her thin jacket tighter, but it did little. The zipper was broken. She had no gloves, no hat. Her sneakers were already soaked through, and cold. Water seeped into her socks with each step. Her toes went numb almost immediately. The streetlights cast orange pools of light onto the white-covered sidewalk. The snow muffled all sound. Anna walked without direction, without purpose. She just moved, one foot in front of the other, because stopping meant freezing. Her breath came out in thick clouds. Her nose went numb. Her ears burned with cold. Her fingers ached inside her pockets. The city stretched around her, vast and indifferent. Cars passed, their tires crunching through slush, headlights cutting briefly through the snow. None of them stopped. None of them slowed. None of them saw the 13-year-old girl stumbling through the storm. Anna turned onto Halsted Street, and the wind hit her face with fury. She squinted against the snow, her eyelashes crusted with ice. Buildings rose on either side, dark and looming. Most of the shops were closed, their windows dark and empty. But ahead, through the white curtain of falling snow, something flickered. A neon sign, red and yellow, buzzing and blinking. Anna walked toward it, drawn forward like a moth to flame. Her legs felt heavy, wooden. Her body was so cold it no longer shivered. That was bad. She had learned that in school. When you stopped shivering, it meant real danger. But she could not make herself care. The sign grew clearer. Cursive letters, glowing warm. Evelyn's Diner. Below it, smaller letters open late. Anna stopped at the corner, beneath a street lamp that swayed in the wind. Through the diner's large front window, she could see light. Real, warm, golden light that looked like safety. She could see red vinyl booths. She could see a long counter with round stools. Steam rose from somewhere inside, fogging the glass. A woman moved behind the counter. Her movements slow as she wiped it down with a white rag. The woman looked old, her hair gray. Anna's teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. She tasted blood. Her whole body ached with cold that had seeped to her bones. She stared at that window, at that golden light. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her bag. Inside that bag, her mother's recipes. Inside that diner, heat and maybe food. And maybe someone who would not slam a door in her face. But Anna did not move toward the entrance. She could not make her feet take those final steps. She stood on the corner. Snow gathering on her shoulders, on her hair, on the canvas bag. She stood there and stared at the light, afraid to hope. Terrified to try, paralyzed by the fear of another door slamming shut, another rejection. Another voice telling her she was not wanted. How many times could a person be turned away before they stopped trying? How many closed doors could one girl face? The neon sign flickered above her head. On, off, on, off. The buzzing was barely audible over the wind. Evelyn's diner. The snowstorm swallowed her small figure, and still she stood there, frozen between the cold darkness behind her and the uncertain light ahead, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Inside the diner, Evelyn Brooks moved between the empty tables with practiced ease. Her gray hair was pulled back in a loose bun, strands escaping around her weathered face. She was in her late 60s, her body showing the years of standing behind a counter, of cooking and serving and cleaning. Her hands were rough, scarred from countless burns and cuts. But they moved with purpose as she lifted chairs onto tables, one after another, the legs scraping against the checkered floor. The diner was warm. Steam still rose from the kitchen, carrying the lingering smell of coffee and fried onions. The overhead lights hummed softly, casting a yellow glow over the red vinyl booths and chrome-edged counter. Outside, the storm raged on, snow piling against the windows, wind howling. But inside, it was its own small world. Safe. Contained. Evelyn wiped down the last table with a damp rag, her movements slow and methodical. Her joints ached more these days. Her back protested every bend. But this was her routine, had been for 30 years. Close at 10. Wipe the tables. Stack the chairs. Count the register. Lock the door. Go home to an empty apartment. Sleep. Wake. Do it all again. She moved toward the front window, rag still in hand, and glanced out at the storm. The street was empty, white and silent. The neon sign above flickered, its red and yellow light reflecting off the falling snow. She was about to turn away, about to head back to finish closing, when something caught her eye. A shape on the corner. Small, dark against the white, not moving. Evelyn squinted, pressing closer to the glass. Her breath fogged the window. She wiped it away with her sleeve. The shape was still there. A person. No, a child. Standing completely still beneath the street lamp, snow gathering on their shoulders like a shroud. Evelyn's heart gave a strange lurch. She had seen plenty of people in her years running this diner. Drunks, addicts, the homeless, the desperate. She had learned to look away, to mind her business, to protect herself from the weight of other people's tragedies. But this was different. This was a child, in a blizzard, alone. She moved toward the door without thinking. Her hand found the lock, twisted it. The cold air rushed in like a physical force, stealing her breath. She gasped, pulling her cardigan tighter. "Hey," she called out, her voice hoarse from years of cigarettes. "Hey, you." The figure did not move, did not turn. Evelyn stepped out onto the sidewalk, the snow immediately soaking through her worn slippers. The cold bit at her ankles, her legs. She hurried toward the corner, her breath coming in white clouds. As she got closer, she could see it was a girl. Young, maybe 12 or 13. Her lips were blue, her skin pale as death. Her eyes were half closed, unfocused. She swayed slightly, like a tree about to fall. "Oh my God," Evelyn breathed. She reached out, grabbed the girl's arm. The girl's head turned slowly, as if moving through water. Her eyes tried to focus on Evelyn's face but could not quite manage it. "What are you doing out here? Where are your parents?" The girl did not answer. Could not answer. Her mouth moved but no sound came out. Evelyn felt panic rise in her chest. The girl was freezing to death. "Right here, right now, on this corner. Come on," Evelyn said, her voice firm. She wrapped her arm around the girl's thin shoulders and pulled her forward. "Come on, sweetheart. We need to get you inside." The girl stumbled, her legs barely working. Her canvas bag slipped from her shoulder. Evelyn caught it, slung it over her own arm, and half dragged, half carried the girl toward the diner. The girl was light, too light. Just bones and skin and frozen clothes. Evelyn's heart hammered in her chest. She had not moved this fast in years. They reached the door. Evelyn pushed it open with her hip, the bell above jangling. The warmth inside hit them like a wall. Evelyn guided the girl to the nearest booth, lowering her onto the red vinyl seat. The girl collapsed against the backrest, her head lolling to one side. Her eyes were closed now. Her breathing shallow. Evelyn's hands shook as she grabbed a wool blanket from behind the counter, the one she kept for cold winter nights. She wrapped it around the girl's shoulders, tucking it tight. Then she hurried to the kitchen, her mind racing. Warmth. She needed warmth. And something warm to drink. She turned on the burner, grabbed a pot from the rack. Chicken soup. She had made it fresh that morning. She ladled it into a bowl, her hands still trembling. Steam rose, curling into the air. She carried it back to the booth, along with a glass of water. The girl had not moved. Her eyes were still closed. Evelyn set the bowl down on the table and sat across from her. She reached out, touched the girl's icy hand. "Honey," she said softly. "Honey, can you hear me?" The girl's eyelids fluttered, opened slowly. Her dark eyes focused on Evelyn's face, confusion and fear swirling in them. "Sit down, honey. You look like you've been out there too long." The girl blinked. Her gaze shifted to the bowl of soup. Steam rose from it, carrying the smell of chicken and vegetables and salt. Her throat moved as she swallowed. Evelyn pushed the bowl closer. "Go on," Evelyn said. "Eat. You need to get warm." The girl's hands emerged from the blanket, shaking so badly she could barely hold the spoon. Evelyn reached over, steadied her hand, helped guide the spoon to her lips. The girl sipped. The hot liquid seemed to shock her system. She gasped, then took another sip. And another. Evelyn sat back, watching. The color was slowly returning to the girl's face. Her lips were no longer blue. Her breathing was steadier. She ate the soup slowly, mechanically, as if her body was moving on instinct alone. Evelyn did not speak, did not ask questions. She just sat there, her hands folded on the table, waiting. When the bowl was half empty, the girl set down the spoon. Her hands were still shaking. She stared at the table, at the empty space between them. Her jaw clenched. Her shoulders began to shake. At first, Evelyn thought she was cold, still shivering from exposure. But then she heard it. A small sound. A choked sob. The girl's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, fast and hot. Her whole body shook with the force of them. She covered her face with her hands, trying to muffle the sound, trying to hold it back. But she could not. The tears came in waves, relentless and raw. Evelyn felt something crack open inside her chest. Something old and carefully guarded. She stood, moved around the table, and slid into the booth beside the girl. She did not touch her. Did not pull her close. She just sat there, solid and present, her shoulder almost touching the girl's. The girl cried like someone who had been holding it in for too long. Like someone who had forgotten how to cry and was remembering all at once. Her breath came in gasps. Her hands shook. Evelyn reached over and placed her hand gently on the girl's back, feeling the sharp edges of her shoulder blades through the thin jacket. "It's okay," Evelyn whispered, her own voice thick. "It's okay, honey. You're safe now." The girl leaned into her, just slightly, as if testing whether this warmth was real. Evelyn's arm came around her shoulders, holding her steady. The girl's forehead pressed against Evelyn's collarbone, and she cried harder, her tears soaking through the fabric of Evelyn's cardigan. Outside, the storm continued. The wind rattled the windows. The snow fell thick and endless. But inside the diner, time seemed to slow. Two people sat in a worn booth beneath humming fluorescent lights. One old woman with gray hair and tired eyes. One young girl with nowhere left to go. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. The soup cooled on the table. The neon sign flickered outside. And in that moment, as the girl's sobs finally began to quiet, as her breathing steadied against Evelyn's chest, something shifted. Something clicked into place. Two broken pieces finding each other in the dark. Two lives, separate and lonely, beginning to intertwine. Evelyn closed her eyes. Her hand moved in slow circles on the girl's back. She did not know this child's name. Did not know where she had come from or why she had been standing in a blizzard. But she knew the look in those eyes. She had seen it before. In a mirror. In photographs. In memories she tried every day to forget. The look of someone who had lost everything. The look of someone standing at the edge of the world with nowhere left to fall. Evelyn had sworn she would never let herself care again. Had sworn she would keep her distance, protect herself, never open that door. But sitting here now, holding this shaking child, she knew it was already too late. The girl's crying had stopped. Her breathing was even now, her body still. Evelyn looked down and saw her eyes were closed, her face peaceful. Exhausted, safe. For the first time in who knew how long, this child was safe. Evelyn let out a long, slow breath. Outside, the night pressed against the windows. Inside, the diner held them both. And for now, that was enough. The girl had fallen asleep in the booth, her head against the worn vinyl, breathing soft and even. Evelyn sat across from her, watching the rise and fall of her small chest. The diner was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the rattle of windows as wind gusted outside. The storm was easing now, snow falling more gently. Evelyn rubbed her face with both hands. Her eyes burned. It was past midnight. She should have been home hours ago. But here she was with a child she did not know, a child with nowhere else to go. She looked at the girl's face, peaceful in sleep. Too young to be alone. Evelyn felt a tightness in her chest, an old ache she had buried for years. She stood abruptly, the booth creaking. She could not do this. Could not let herself care. Not again. But she was already moving toward the back of the diner. Past the kitchen, down a narrow hallway lined with boxes. At the end was a door she had not opened in months. Her hand hesitated on the knob. Then she turned it. The room was small. A single bed against one wall. A dresser with a cracked mirror. A window looking onto the alley. It smelled musty, unused. Evelyn flipped the light switch. The bare bulb flickered on, casting harsh shadows. The bed was unmade, sheets old and faded. But it was warm. It was shelter. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. This was a mistake. She knew it. Letting someone in meant pain. Loss. She had learned that the hardest way. But when she closed her eyes, all she saw was the girl standing in snow. Blue lips. Empty eyes. On the edge of death. She let out a long breath. Just for tonight. That was all. One night to get the girl warm and fed. Tomorrow she would call someone. Social services. The police. Someone whose job it was to care. Evelyn went back to the diner. The girl was still asleep. Evelyn touched her shoulder gently. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, sweetheart. Wake up. The girl's eyes opened slowly, confused. She looked around as if she had forgotten where she was. Then her gaze landed on Evelyn, and fear flickered across her face. It's okay, Evelyn said quickly. You're safe. I have a room in the back. You can sleep there tonight. The girl stared at her. Did not move, did not speak. Just for tonight, Evelyn added, hearing the hesitation in her own voice. As if she was trying to convince herself as much as the girl. The girl sat up slowly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. Her eyes were wary, guarded. She looked like an animal that had been kicked too many times. Come on, Evelyn said, trying to sound firm. You need real sleep. In a real bed. She turned and walked toward the hallway. Behind her, she heard the soft shuffle of feet. The girl was following, her canvas bag clutched tight. Evelyn led her to the small room and stepped aside. The girl stood in the doorway, taking it in. Her eyes moved from bed to dresser to window. She did not step inside. It's not much, Evelyn said. But it's warm. And the door locks from the inside. The girl's throat moved as she swallowed. Then, slowly, she stepped into the room. She sat on the bed's edge, testing it. The springs creaked softly. She looked up at Evelyn, and for the first time, Evelyn saw something other than fear in those dark eyes. Gratitude. Raw and overwhelming. Thank you, the girl whispered. Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. Evelyn felt that tightness in her chest again. She nodded stiffly. Just for tonight, she repeated, like a mantra. Then she turned and walked out, pulling the door closed. Back in the main diner, Evelyn stood by the front window. The storm had stopped completely. The street was blanketed in white. The neon sign flickered above, casting red and yellow light onto the snow. She looked at her reflection in the glass. An old woman. Tired. Alone. Foolish. Her gaze shifted to the photograph hanging beside the window. Small, in a simple wooden frame. The glass was dusty. She had not looked at it, really looked at it, in years. But now she moved closer, her fingers reaching up to touch the frame. The photograph showed a younger Evelyn, her hair still dark, her face unlined. She was smiling, her arm around a girl of about 12. The girl had bright eyes and a gap-toothed grin. She wore a dress with flowers on it. At the bottom, written in faded ink, was a name and year. Grace, 1978. Evelyn's hand trembled as she traced the outline of the girl's face through the glass. Grace. Her daughter. Gone now for 25 years. 25 years since that morning. Since the accident. Since Evelyn's world ended. I said that once before, Evelyn whispered to the empty diner. Her voice cracked. Just for tonight. That's what I said. She closed her eyes, back in that moment. Grace standing on her doorstep. 15 years old. Pregnant. Terrified. Evelyn had been so angry. So ashamed. She had let Grace stay, but only for one night. And then she had told her to leave. To figure it out on her own. To grow up. Grace had left the next morning. Walked out into the cold. And Evelyn had watched her go, too proud to call her back. Too stubborn to admit she was wrong. That was the last time she saw her daughter alive. 3 days later, the police came. There had been an accident. Grace was gone. Evelyn opened her eyes. The diner came back into focus. The photograph stared back at her. A moment frozen in time. Before everything fell apart. Before Evelyn's pride destroyed the only thing she had ever loved. She turned away from the window. Her legs felt heavy as she walked to the back room. She stood outside the door, listening. No sound from within. The girl was probably asleep. Evelyn placed her palm flat against the door. Just for tonight. But even as she thought it, she knew it was a lie. She had said those words before, and they had cost her everything. This time would be different. It had to be. Morning came gray and cold. The sun struggled through thick clouds. Evelyn woke on the couch in her office, her neck stiff and back aching. She had not gone home. Had not wanted to leave the girl alone. She stood slowly, joints protesting, and made her way to the kitchen. She started the coffee pot, the familiar routine grounding her. Then she heard it. Running water. She turned and saw the girl at the sink, her back to Evelyn. She was washing dishes. The ones from last night. The bowl. The spoon. The glass. Evelyn watched in silence. The girl's movements were careful, methodical. She rinsed each dish twice, making sure it was clean. Her hair was still tangled, her clothes wrinkled. But there was something different this morning. A quiet determination. The girl set the last dish in the drying rack and turned. She startled when she saw Evelyn. I'm sorry, the girl said quickly. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to help. Evelyn looked at her. Really looked at her. This thin, frightened child who had been thrown away. Who had nowhere to go. Who was washing dishes as if that might earn her the right to exist. What's your name? Evelyn asked. Anna, the girl said. Anna Collins. Anna, Evelyn repeated. She liked the sound of it. Simple. Honest. She poured herself a cup of coffee, her back to the girl. She took a sip, thinking. She could still call someone. Still hand this problem off. Still protect herself. But when she turned back, Anna was watching her with those dark, wary eyes. Waiting. Always waiting. For the next rejection. The next door to slam shut. Evelyn set down her coffee cup. You can stay, she said. The words came out rough, uncertain. She cleared her throat. You can stay. If you help out a little. Anna's eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked like she did not trust what she was hearing. I need help around here, Evelyn continued, trying to sound practical. It's hard running this place alone. If you can wash dishes, clear tables, help with prep work. You can stay. I won't pay you much. But you'll have a room. And food. Anna stood frozen for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Just once. A small, careful movement. But her eyes said everything. Relief. Hope. Gratitude so deep it was almost painful to see. Evelyn nodded back. Good, she said. We open in an hour. Better get ready. She turned away, busying herself with the coffee pot. Behind her, she heard Anna move. Heard her footsteps heading toward the back room. When Evelyn glanced over her shoulder, the girl was gone. But something had changed. The diner felt different, less empty. Evelyn looked at the photograph of Grace on the wall. Her daughter smiled back at her, forever 12. Forever lost. This was not about replacing Grace. Nothing could do that. But maybe it was about a second chance. Not for Anna, for Evelyn. A chance to not make the same mistake twice. A chance to keep a door open instead of slamming it shut. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Light streamed through the windows, warming the chrome counter, reflecting off the red vinyl booths. The diner came alive with morning. And in the back room, a 13-year-old girl sat on the edge of a bed. A canvas bag in her lap, and allowed herself, for the first time in a very long time, to hope. The breakfast rush started at 7. The bell above the door jangled constantly as customers filed in, stamping snow from their boots, shaking off the cold. Anna stood behind the counter, her hands gripping a damp rag, watching the diner fill with people. Her heart pounded in her chest. So many faces, so many eyes that might see through her, see that she did not belong. Evelyn moved through the chaos with practiced ease, pouring coffee, taking orders, her voice steady and sure. Anna tried to stay out of the way, wiping down the same spot on the counter over and over until the chrome shone. A man in his 50s settled onto a stool directly in front of her. He had kind eyes and calloused hands. A construction worker, Anna guessed. He smiled at her. You're new, he said. Anna's throat went dry. She nodded but could not find words. The man did not seem to mind. He just kept smiling. I'm Tom, he said. Been coming here for 10 years. Evelyn makes the best pancakes in Chicago. Evelyn appeared beside Anna, coffee pot in hand. She filled Tom's mug without being asked. Tom, meet Anna, Evelyn said. Her voice was casual, light, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. She's helping me out around here. Tom nodded approvingly. Good. This place needs young blood. More regulars arrived. An elderly woman named Margaret who always ordered oatmeal. A truck driver called Big Mike who liked his eggs scrambled with extra cheese. A nurse finishing her night shift who drank 3 cups of black coffee and barely spoke. They all noticed Anna. They all asked questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? How long would she stay? Evelyn deflected most of it with practiced skill. She was good at talking without saying much. But when Margaret pressed harder, leaning across the counter with curious eyes, Evelyn surprised everyone. That's my granddaughter, she said. The words hung in the air. Anna froze, her rag still in her hand, her eyes wide. She stared at Evelyn, but the older woman did not look at her. She just kept pouring coffee, her expression neutral, as if she had stated a simple fact. Margaret beamed. I didn't know you had a granddaughter, Evelyn. Well, now you do, Evelyn said, moving down the counter to refill Big Mike's mug. Anna stood motionless. Her mind raced. Granddaughter. The word echoed in her head, strange and foreign. She was not Evelyn's granddaughter. They had known each other for less than 24 hours. This was a lie, a story, a way to stop the questions. But even as she thought it, something warm unfurled in her chest. Granddaughter. It had been so long since anyone had claimed her. Since anyone had said, she's mine, in any capacity. Her aunt had never called her family. Had never introduced her as anything but, the girl I'm stuck with. Anna looked at Evelyn, who was laughing at something Tom said. The older woman glanced back, just for a second. Their eyes met. Evelyn's expression did not change, but there was something there. A question. A test. Anna could object. Could tell everyone the truth. Could make it awkward and painful. Instead, Anna looked down at her rag. She folded it carefully and set it on the counter. Then she picked up the coffee pot Evelyn had set down and moved to refill Margaret's cup. Her hands shook slightly, but she did not spill a drop. Margaret smiled up at her. You look just like her, you know. Same eyes. Anna did not know what to say to that. She just nodded and moved on to the next customer. Behind her, she heard Evelyn chuckle softly. The sound was warm, almost proud. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Anna learned to balance plates, to remember who ordered what, to move through the narrow space behind the counter without bumping into Evelyn. It was hard work. Her feet ached, her back hurt, but it felt good. It felt like belonging to something. By noon, the rush had ended. The diner was quiet except for a few lingering customers. Anna wiped down tables while Evelyn counted the register. The bell jangled, and a woman in a professional suit walked in. She had a briefcase and tired eyes. She looked around, then approached the counter. "I'm looking for Evelyn Brooks," she said. Evelyn looked up from the cash register. "That's me. I'm Susan Hartley. I'm a counselor at Lincoln Middle School." She glanced at Anna, who had stopped wiping and was watching from across the room. "I got a call from Community Services. Something about a girl who needs help enrolling." Evelyn's expression hardened slightly. "I didn't call anyone. A concerned citizen did," Susan said gently. "Someone saw a young girl working here and wanted to make sure she was being taken care of. Including making sure she's in school." Anna's stomach dropped. She gripped the rag tighter. This was it. They were going to take her away. Put her in foster care. Or worse, send her back to her aunt. The room seemed to tilt. Evelyn's jaw tightened. "The girl is fine. She's with me." Susan smiled. "It was not unkind. I'm sure she is. But she still needs to be in school. That's the law. I'm not here to cause trouble, Mrs. Brooks. I'm here to help." She looked at Anna again. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Anna's voice came out small. Anna Collins." "Anna," Susan repeated. She opened her briefcase and pulled out some papers. "I work with a community program that helps kids who've fallen through the cracks. We can get you back in school. Get you caught up. No questions asked about where you've been or why you left. Just a fresh start. Would you like that?" Anna looked at Evelyn. The older woman's expression was unreadable. Anna could not tell if she was angry or relieved or something else entirely. Finally, Evelyn nodded. "School's important," she said gruffly. "You should go." Susan spent the next hour at a corner booth, filling out forms. Anna sat across from her, answering questions. Name, age, last school attended. It felt invasive, like being dissected. But Susan was patient. She did not push. When Anna hesitated, she waited. When Anna's eyes filled with tears at certain questions, Susan handed her a tissue and moved on. By the time Susan left, Anna was enrolled at Lincoln Middle School. She would start the following Monday. Susan promised to check in, to make sure Anna had what she needed. Notebooks, pens, a backpack. Anna nodded to everything, overwhelmed. When the door closed behind Susan, the diner felt very quiet. Anna sat at the counter, staring at the enrollment papers. School. She had not been to school in months. The thought terrified her. What if the other kids asked questions? What if they laughed at her clothes? What if she could not keep up? Evelyn moved to the stove and started preparing the evening's soup. Chicken vegetable today. She chopped carrots with steady hands, the knife hitting the cutting board in a rhythmic thunk, thunk, thunk. Anna watched her, taking comfort in the familiar motion. "You'll do fine," Evelyn said without looking up. "You're smart. I can tell." Anna did not feel smart. She felt scared and small and out of place. But she did not say that. She just sat there, watching Evelyn work. Evelyn added the carrots to the pot, then moved on to celery. Her movements were automatic, like she had made this soup 1,000 times. Probably she had. The steam rose around her face, making her look softer somehow. "Younger. You know," Evelyn said quietly, almost to herself, "you remind me of someone I used to know." Anna's breath caught. She waited for Evelyn to say more, to explain. But the older woman just kept chopping, kept stirring, her expression distant. Lost in memory. Anna wanted to ask who. Wanted to know if it was Grace, the girl in the photograph. But the words would not come. The moment felt too fragile, too precious. So she just sat there, watching Evelyn cook, and let the silence speak for both of them. The afternoon stretched into evening. Customers came and went. Tom returned for dinner, waving at Anna like they were old friends. Margaret stopped by for pie, chatting with Evelyn about the weather. The diner felt alive, warm, full of small connections and familiar routines. Anna helped where she could. She refilled water glasses. She cleared plates. She learned that Big Mike liked his burger well done and that the nurse, whose name was Patricia, always left exactly a 15% tip. She learned the rhythm of the place, the way it breathed and moved. And with each small task, each moment of belonging, the fear in her chest loosened just a little. She was still scared of Monday, still terrified of what would happen when she walked into that school. But for now, in this diner, with these people who called her Evelyn's granddaughter, she felt almost safe. Night fell. The last customer left. Evelyn flipped the sign to closed and locked the door. She stretched, her spine cracking audibly. "Long day," she said. Anna nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. "For saying I'm your granddaughter. For letting me stay." Evelyn looked at her for a long moment. Her eyes were tired but not unkind. "Go get some rest. Tomorrow we do it all again." Anna walked to the back room, her feet dragging. She closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed. Through the thin walls, she could hear Evelyn moving around the kitchen. Cleaning, preparing for tomorrow. The sounds were comforting, steady. Anna lay down, her head sinking into the pillow. She thought about the word granddaughter. About how it had felt to hear it, to not correct it. About how Margaret had said they had the same eyes. About how Tom had smiled at her like she was welcome. Outside, the city hummed. Cars passed. People lived their lives. But here, in this small room behind a diner on Halsted Street, a 13-year-old girl closed her eyes and allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, that she had found something she thought was lost forever. A place where she was wanted. A person who might care. A chance to start again. Anna had been living at the diner for 3 days when she noticed the photograph. She was wiping down the front window, her rag moving in slow circles over the glass, when her eyes landed on the small wooden frame hanging beside it. She had passed it dozens of times but never really looked. Now, with the afternoon light streaming through the window, the glass caught the sun and seemed to glow. She stopped wiping, set down her rag, moved closer. The photograph was old, the colors slightly faded. It showed a younger Evelyn, maybe in her 40s. Her hair was dark brown instead of gray, pulled back from her face. She looked softer somehow, happier. Her arm was wrapped around a girl who looked about 12 years old. The girl had bright eyes and a wide smile that showed a gap between her front teeth. She wore a yellow dress with small flowers on it. They stood in front of the diner, the same neon sign visible above their heads. Anna leaned in closer, squinting at the faded ink written at the bottom of the photograph. Grace, 1978. The name sent a strange chill down her spine. Grace. She had heard that name before. Where? Then she remembered. The recipes in her mother's notebook. Add extra butter. Grace loved these. Her heart beat faster. Could it be the same Grace? No, that was impossible. Her mother's Grace was her sister. This Grace belonged to Evelyn. Different people, different lives. But the coincidence felt too strange to ignore. Anna turned to find Evelyn. The older woman was at the cash register, counting bills with practiced fingers. Anna walked over slowly, the photograph still in her mind. "Evelyn?" Her voice came out softer than she intended. Evelyn looked up. The picture by the window. Anna pointed. "Is that your daughter?" The change in Evelyn was immediate. Her fingers stopped counting. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes went to the photograph, then quickly away, as if looking at it caused physical pain. For a long moment, she did not speak. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. "Just someone I used to know," Evelyn said finally. Her voice was flat, empty. Anna waited for more. An explanation. A story. But Evelyn turned back to the register, her fingers resuming their count. The conversation was over. Anna could feel it in the air between them, a wall that had suddenly gone up. She wanted to ask more. Who was Grace? Why was her picture still hanging there if she was just someone Evelyn used to know? What had happened to her? But the set of Evelyn's shoulders, the tightness in her jaw, warned Anna to stay silent. Some doors were meant to stay closed. Anna went back to cleaning, but the photograph haunted her. She found her eyes drifting to it again and again. The way Evelyn's arm wrapped around the girl. the genuine happiness in both their faces. Whatever Grace had been to Evelyn, she was not just someone. She was everything. That evening, after the last customer left, Evelyn's mood was different. Darker. She moved through the closing routine with mechanical efficiency, her face set in hard lines. She did not hum like she usually did not make small talk. Just worked in silence. Anna tried to help, clearing tables and stacking chairs, but Evelyn barely acknowledged her. It was as if Anna had become invisible. The warmth that had been growing between them over the past few days had vanished, replaced by this cold distance. When everything was clean and locked up, Evelyn did not say goodnight. She just walked to the front window and stood there, staring out at the dark street. Anna hesitated, then retreated to her room. She closed the door and sat on her bed, confused and hurt. What had she done wrong? She had only asked a question. Hours passed. Anna lay in bed, unable to sleep. Through the thin walls, she heard sounds from the diner. The scrape of a chair. Footsteps. Then nothing. She got up quietly and opened her door a crack, peering out into the dim diner. Evelyn sat at a booth near the window. The only light came from the neon sign outside, casting red and yellow shadows across her face. She had a cigarette between her fingers, the smoke curling up toward the ceiling. Anna had never seen her smoke before. Evelyn stared out the window, her expression distant and haunted. Anna watched for a while, unsure what to do. She wanted to go to Evelyn, to say she was sorry for asking, to somehow fix whatever she had broken. But her feet would not move. She felt frozen, caught between wanting to comfort and being afraid of making things worse. Finally, she closed the door and went back to bed. But sleep would not come. She lay in the darkness, listening to the sounds of Evelyn moving around the diner. The occasional cough, the strike of a match lighting another cigarette, the soft creak of the booth. This became a pattern. For the next several nights, Evelyn's expression remained hard during the day. She spoke only when necessary, her words clipped and businesslike. At night, she sat by the window smoking, staring out at nothing. The warmth between them had disappeared completely, replaced by this terrible distance. Anna tried to be helpful. She worked harder, taking on more tasks without being asked. She washed dishes until her hands were raw. She memorized every regular's order. She moved through the diner like a ghost, trying to be useful while taking up as little space as possible. Trying to earn back whatever she had lost by asking about Grace. But nothing changed. Evelyn remained cold, distant, lost in whatever memories the photograph had awakened. Anna felt the anxiety growing in her chest like a living thing. What if Evelyn decided she did not want her here anymore? What if asking about Grace had been the final straw? What if she ended up back on the street, alone in the winter cold? The name Grace haunted her. It appeared in her dreams. She found herself thinking about it constantly. Who was she? Why did her memory have such power over Evelyn? Why did that single question create such a wall between them? Anna looked at the photograph whenever she passed it. She studied the smile on young Evelyn's face, the joy in the girl's eyes. Whatever had happened to Grace, it had broken something in Evelyn. Something that maybe could never be fixed. One night, unable to sleep again, Anna got up and went to the diner. Evelyn was in her usual spot by the window, cigarette in hand. Anna stood in the doorway of her room, watching. The older woman looked so alone. So tired. The smoke from her cigarette drifted up into the darkness, disappearing. Anna wanted to say something. Wanted to apologize or explain or just break the terrible silence. But the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she just stood there, a 13-year-old girl in an oversized t-shirt, watching the woman who had saved her life slowly retreat into grief. Evelyn must have sensed her presence. She turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting Anna's across the dark diner. For a moment, neither of them moved. Neither spoke. Then Evelyn looked away, back to the window, back to whatever ghosts she saw in the reflection. Anna went back to her room. She lay down and pulled the blanket up to her chin. The name Grace echoed in her mind. Grace, 1978. Just someone I used to know. But the way Evelyn had said it, the way her whole body had changed, told a different story. Grace was not just someone. Grace was a wound that had never healed. A loss that had never been mourned properly. A door that Evelyn had closed and locked and tried to forget. And Anna, in her innocence, had opened it again. Had forced Evelyn to look at something she had been avoiding for years. The guilt settled heavy in Anna's chest. She had hurt the only person who had been kind to her. Had brought pain into the life of the woman who had given her shelter. Outside, the city was quiet. Snow began to fall again, soft and silent. In the diner, Evelyn lit another cigarette. The smoke rose and disappeared. And in her small room, Anna closed her eyes and whispered an apology that no one would hear. She promised herself she would never ask about Grace again. Would never mention the photograph. Would let that door stay closed, no matter how much the mystery haunted her. But the damage was done. The wall was up, and Anna did not know if it would ever come down. She lay in the darkness, listening to Evelyn move around the diner, and felt more alone than she had since that night in the snow. The diner that had begun to feel like home now felt like a place where she was being tolerated. Where she walked on eggshells. Where one wrong question could destroy everything. The photograph hung by the window, a reminder of happier times. Of a girl named Grace who smiled without fear. Of an Evelyn who had not yet learned how much love could hurt. And between them, the living, an invisible wound that would not heal. A name that could not be spoken. A mystery that demanded answers but could not be questioned. Grace. The name lingered in Anna's mind like a prayer or a curse. She did not know which. She only knew that everything had changed. And she did not know how to change it back. Anna stood at the window, looking out at Halsted Street. Across from the diner, where an old bookstore had been empty for months, a new shop had opened. Bright yellow awning, clean windows, a sign in bold letters: Sunshine Bagels. Workers hung decorations, balloons bobbed in the cold air. A sandwich board advertised grand opening specials. Fresh bagels, coffee for half price. Already, a line of people stretched down the block. Anna's stomach tightened. She turned to Evelyn, who stood at the register counting receipts. The older woman's face was drawn, her movements slower than usual. The breakfast rush that morning was thin. Only half the usual customers came. Tom showed up, loyal as always, but mentioned the bagel place. Margaret came in but ordered just toast. Said she was watching her spending. By noon, the diner was nearly empty. Anna wiped tables that did not need wiping. Evelyn stood at the window, arms crossed, staring at the line across the street. "It's just the novelty," Evelyn said. Her voice was rough. "People like new things. They'll come back." But Anna heard the doubt underneath. The fear. If they lost more customers, where would Anna go? What would happen to Evelyn? Evelyn turned away and began coughing. It started small but quickly became worse. Deep, rattling coughs that shook her whole body. She bent over, one hand braced against the counter, the other pressed to her chest. The coughs went on, each one sounding like it was tearing something inside her. Anna rushed over. "Are you okay?" Evelyn held up a hand, still coughing. Her face was red, her eyes watering. Finally, the fit passed. She straightened slowly, breathing hard. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small bottle of pills. Her hands shook as she opened it, spilling 2 tablets into her palm. She swallowed them dry, grimacing. "I'm fine," she said, her voice hoarse. "Just a cold." But Anna had heard that cough getting worse over weeks. Had seen Evelyn taking those pills more often. This was not just a cold. This was something deeper. Something wrong. "Maybe you should see a doctor," Anna said quietly. Evelyn's jaw tightened. "I'm fine. Don't fuss." She walked to the kitchen, shoulders stiff. Anna watched her go, worry gnawing at her. Evelyn was all she had. If something happened to her, if she got sick, if she could not run the diner anymore. Anna pushed the thought away. Too terrifying to consider. School that afternoon was worse than usual. Anna had been attending Lincoln Middle School for 3 weeks now. It had not gotten easier. She kept to herself, sitting in the back of classrooms, eating lunch alone in the library. But the other students had noticed her. Had started talking. She walked down the hallway between classes, head down, backpack heavy on her shoulders. A group of girls stood by the lockers. Sarah, Jessica, Madison, popular girls who traveled in packs. As Anna passed, she heard them whisper. Then giggle. She tried to walk faster, but Sarah called out. Hey, Anna? Anna stopped, turned. Sarah was smiling, but not kindly. It was the smile of someone who had found a weakness. Is it true you live in that diner? Sarah asked. Her voice was loud enough that other students turned to look. Anna's face burned. I help out there. But you live there, right? Jessica said. Like, you sleep there? In the back? She lives in that diner. Madison said louder. She was laughing. The others joined in. Does it smell like grease all the time? Sarah asked. Do you smell like grease? The hallway closed in around Anna. All eyes were on her. Students she did not know were staring, whispering. Some were laughing. Others looked away, embarrassed for her. Anna felt exposed and defenseless. At least I have a place to live, Anna said, barely above a whisper. What? Sarah leaned in, cupping her ear mockingly. What did you say? Anna did not repeat it. She just turned and walked away, their laughter following her. She pushed through the bathroom door and locked herself in a stall. Her hands shook. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not where they could see. She stayed there until the bell rang, until the hallways emptied. She went to her next class late, took her seat in the back, and stared at her desk. The teacher's voice was just noise. Nothing mattered except getting through the day. Getting back to the diner. Getting back to the one place where she felt remotely safe. When school ended, Anna walked home slowly. The word home felt strange. Was the diner home? Could a place be home when you had only been there a few weeks? When you still slept in your clothes? When you kept your mother's notebook under your pillow, ready to grab if you had to run? She reached Halsted Street as the sun was setting. The sky was streaked with orange and purple. The air was cold, biting. She crossed toward the diner and noticed something she had not seen before. Maybe it was the angle of the light. Beneath the main neon sign that said Evelyn's Diner, there was smaller text. Faded, almost hidden by years of weather and neglect. Anna stopped on the sidewalk, squinting up at it. The letters were barely visible, but she could make them out. In memory of Grace. Her breath caught. Grace. The name from the photograph. The girl Evelyn had whispered about. The daughter who had died. This diner was dedicated to her. A memorial in neon and vinyl and the smell of coffee. Anna stared at those words, feeling something shift inside her. This was not just a diner. This was a shrine. A place where Evelyn had poured her grief, her love, her regret. Every pancake flipped was a prayer. Every cup of coffee poured was an offering. Evelyn had been doing penance here for 25 years, trying to make up for something that could never be undone. And now Anna was part of it. Living in Grace's shadow, sleeping in what might have been Grace's room, being called granddaughter by a woman whose real granddaughter never got the chance to exist. The weight of it settled on Anna's shoulders like a heavy coat. She walked inside. The diner was empty except for Evelyn, who stood at the stove stirring soup. She looked up when the bell jangled. How was school? She asked. Anna set her backpack down. Fine. Evelyn studied her face. Anna could tell she did not believe it. But Evelyn did not push. She just nodded and went back to stirring. Anna moved to the front window. Across the street, Sunshine Bagels was still busy. Customers flowed in and out, carrying bags, laughing, satisfied. The diner was silent, empty, a relic of another time that the world was forgetting. I saw the sign, Anna said quietly. Under the main one. About Grace. Evelyn's hand stilled on the spoon. She did not turn around. Did you? Is that your daughter? The one in the photograph? For a long moment, Evelyn did not answer. The only sound was the bubbling of soup. Then, finally, she spoke. Yes. Just that one word. But it contained everything. Love, loss, regret, grief so deep it had no bottom. Anna wanted to ask more. Wanted to know the whole story. But she could see the tension in Evelyn's shoulders, the way her hand gripped the spoon too tight. This was not the time. Maybe there would never be a time. I'm sorry, Anna said. Evelyn nodded once. Then she began stirring again, movements mechanical. Set the tables for dinner. We might get a few customers. Anna did as she was told. She moved through the familiar routine, laying out silverware, filling salt shakers, wiping menus. But her mind was elsewhere. On the sign outside. On the daughter who had died too young. On Evelyn's cough that sounded worse every day. On the girls at school who mocked her for having nowhere else to go. The world felt heavy, uncertain, like standing on ice that might crack at any moment. Anna had thought she found stability here. Had thought maybe things would be okay. But now she saw how fragile it all was. How easily it could fall apart. Night came. A few customers trickled in for dinner. Not many. Evelyn served them with her usual efficiency, but Anna could see the exhaustion in her face. The way she moved slower. The way she had to stop and catch her breath between tasks. The way her hand shook slightly when she poured coffee. By 9, the last customer left. Evelyn locked the door and flipped the sign to closed. She stood there for a moment, her forehead pressed against the glass, her breath fogging the window. "We'll be okay," she said. To Anna, to herself, to the ghost of her daughter whose name flickered in neon above them. "We'll be okay." But Anna heard the doubt in her voice. Saw it in the slump of her shoulders. And for the first time since that snowy night when Evelyn had pulled her from the cold, Anna wondered if that was true. If they really would be okay. Or if the shadows gathering around them were too thick, too dark, too heavy to escape. The diner was closed for the night. Outside, rain drummed against the windows. Inside, only a single lamp glowed behind the counter, casting long shadows across the empty booths. Anna sat at the counter, homework spread before her. Math problems she could not focus on. Her mind kept drifting to the photograph on the wall. To the small text beneath the neon sign. To Grace. Always Grace. Evelyn moved through the kitchen, cleaning up. The clatter of dishes. The rush of water. Familiar sounds that usually brought comfort. But tonight they felt distant, like they were coming from underwater. Anna set down her pencil. Her heart hammered. She had been wanting to ask for weeks. Had rehearsed the question 100 times. But every time she opened her mouth, fear choked the words back. What if asking meant breaking something? What if the truth was too heavy? But she could not keep living in the shadow of someone she did not understand. Could not keep wondering who Grace was. Why Evelyn's eyes went distant at the name. Why this diner felt less like a business and more like a memorial. Anna turned on her stool to face the kitchen. Evelyn had her back to her, drying dishes. Her shoulders were hunched, her movements slow. She looked tired, so tired. "Who is Grace?" The words came out quietly, but in the silence they felt like a shout. Evelyn's hands stopped moving. The dish towel hung limp. For a long moment, she did not turn around. Did not move, did not breathe. Anna waited, pulse racing. Maybe this was a mistake. But it was too late now. The question hung between them, impossible to take back. Finally, Evelyn set down the towel. She turned slowly, face unreadable. She looked at Anna for a long moment, eyes searching. Then, without a word, she walked past the counter and disappeared into the back hallway. Anna sat frozen, unsure what to do. Had she made Evelyn angry? But before she could spiral into panic, Evelyn returned. She carried a cardboard box, old and battered, corners reinforced with yellowed tape. Evelyn set the box on the counter between them. Her hands rested on the lid, trembling. She stared at it like it might contain something dangerous. Then she opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Evelyn picked up one near the top and held it out. It showed a girl about 12 years old with dark hair and bright eyes. She was laughing, head thrown back, pure joy captured in a single moment. "Grace," Evelyn said. Her voice was rough, like the word had been buried too long. "My daughter." Anna took the photograph carefully. The girl looked happy, carefree, alive in a way that made Anna's chest ache. "She looks like you," Anna said softly. Evelyn's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Everyone said that. She reached into the box and pulled out more items. A pink hair ribbon, faded. A drawing of a flower, signed in childish handwriting. A report card with straight marks. Small pieces of a life that had been lived and lost. Then Evelyn pulled out a card. Handmade, construction paper folded in half. On the front, Grace had drawn a pancake with a smiley face. Inside, written in careful letters, Grace's pancake recipe: love, Mom. Anna felt her throat tighten. She looked up at Evelyn, who stared at the card with glistening eyes. She made this for Mother's Day, Evelyn said. Her voice cracked. She was 12. She wanted to surprise me. Wanted to make me breakfast in bed. She paused, jaw clenching. But I had to work. I told her we would do it later. Told her I had to open the diner. That customers were more important. Evelyn's hands shook as she set the card down. She pressed her palms flat against the counter, trying to steady herself. She was upset. Said I always chose work over her. Said I never had time for her anymore. Evelyn's voice dropped to barely a whisper. And she was right. After her father left, I threw myself into this place. Worked 16-hour days. Told myself I was doing it for her. But really, I was just hiding. Anna wanted to say something, anything, but no words came. She just sat there, holding the photograph, watching Evelyn unravel. That morning, she left. Evelyn continued. Slammed the door. I thought she would cool off. Be back by dinner. But she went to her friend's house across town. Was crossing the street on her way home. Evelyn's voice broke. The driver said she just stepped out. Said it happened so fast. She died before the ambulance arrived. The rain hammered against the windows. The clock ticked. But inside the diner, time seemed to have stopped. Evelyn stood there, face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. She made no sound, just cried silently, her whole body shaking with 25 years of grief. Anna felt her own tears spill over. She looked at the card. At Grace's careful handwriting. At the smiley face pancake drawn with so much love. This girl had just wanted to do something nice for her mother. Had just wanted to be seen. To matter. And Evelyn had chosen work instead. And that choice had cost her everything. I opened this place in her memory, Evelyn said, voice raw. Thought if I kept it running, kept making pancakes, kept serving people, maybe it would mean something. Maybe it would make up for what I did. But it never does. Nothing ever does. Anna set down the photograph. She slid off her stool and moved around the counter. She stood in front of Evelyn, small and uncertain. Then, slowly, she reached out and took Evelyn's hand. Evelyn looked down at their joined hands. Her fingers were rough and scarred. Anna's were smooth and small. Two hands that had both known loss. Both known abandonment. Both known what it felt like to be unwanted. It wasn't your fault, Anna whispered. Evelyn shook her head. Yes, it was. You didn't know what would happen. You were just trying to work. To survive. I should have made her breakfast, Evelyn said, voice breaking. I should have stopped. Should have told her she mattered more than anything. Should have made those damn pancakes. Anna squeezed her hand tighter. You were doing your best. That's all anyone can do. Evelyn looked at her then. Really looked at her. And in that moment, something passed between them. An understanding. A recognition. They were both broken. Both carrying guilt they did not deserve. Both trying to survive in a world that had taken everything from them. I see her in you sometimes, Evelyn said softly. The way you look at things. The way you try so hard to be invisible. Like if you take up too much space, someone will take it away. Anna's breath hitched. That was exactly how she felt. Every day, every moment. When I saw you that night, Evelyn continued, standing in the snow, about to give up, I saw her. Saw what she might have become if she had lived. And I knew I could not walk away. Could not let another child slip through my fingers. Anna's tears fell faster now. She did not try to stop them. Neither did Evelyn. They just stood there in the dim light of the empty diner, holding hands, crying for daughters lost and chances missed and wounds that never fully healed. Outside, the rain began to ease. The drumming softened to a gentle patter. The clock ticked on. But inside the diner, two broken people found something they had both been searching for. Not healing. Not forgiveness. But understanding. Connection. The knowledge that they were not alone in their pain. Evelyn pulled Anna into an embrace. Not gentle. Not soft. But desperate. Holding on like Anna might disappear if she let go. Anna wrapped her arms around the older woman's waist and buried her face in her shoulder. She smelled like coffee and flour and something else. Something like home. They stood like that for a long time. Until the tears stopped. Until their breathing steadied. Until the weight on their chests felt lighter. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, she said. For keeping this from you. For not telling you sooner. It's okay, Anna said. And she meant it. Some truths took time to share. Evelyn looked at the box on the counter. At all of Grace's things spread out like artifacts from another life. Then she looked at Anna. She would have liked you, Evelyn said. Grace. She would have thought you were brave. Anna did not feel brave. But she nodded anyway. Because maybe that was what bravery was. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to keep going despite it. To ask hard questions. To reach out even when rejection seemed certain. To hold someone's hand and say you are not alone. The rain stopped completely. The night grew quiet. Evelyn began putting Grace's things back in the box, handling each item with reverence. Anna helped, carefully placing photographs and ribbons and the handmade card back where they belonged. When the box was closed, Evelyn picked it up. Thank you, she said. For asking. For listening. For staying. Anna smiled, small but real. Thank you for telling me. Evelyn carried the box back to the hallway. Anna returned to her stool, but she did not pick up her pencil. She just sat there, looking at the empty diner. At the photograph of Grace on the wall. At the neon sign flickering outside. In memory of Grace. And now, Anna understood. This place was more than a diner. It was love made tangible. Grief transformed into pancakes and coffee and a door that stayed open for anyone who needed shelter. It was Evelyn's way of saying sorry. Of saying I love you. Of saying you mattered. And somehow, impossibly, Anna had become part of that. Part of the memorial. Part of the love. Part of the family that grief had created from its ashes. The timer beeped. Once. Twice. 3 times. The shrill sound cut through the morning quiet of the diner, persistent and demanding. But no one came to flip the pancakes. Anna stood at the register, counting out change for a customer, when she noticed. The smell hit her first. Not the usual sweet scent of browning batter, but something darker. The acrid smell of burning. She looked toward the kitchen. The timer kept beeping. The griddle hissed and smoked. Evelyn? Anna called out. No answer. The customer took his change and left. Anna moved toward the kitchen, her steps quickening. The timer was still beeping. The pancakes on the griddle were black now, smoke rising in thin gray streams. Evelyn? She pushed through the swinging door into the kitchen. And there, on the floor beside the prep table, was Evelyn. Collapsed. Her body crumpled at an awkward angle, one arm stretched out as if she had been reaching for something. Her eyes were closed. Her face was gray, the color of old newspaper. For a moment, Anna could not move. Could not breathe. Her mind went blank, white with panic. Then training kicked in. Things she had learned in a health class she barely remembered. She dropped to her knees beside Evelyn. Evelyn, can you hear me? She pressed her fingers to Evelyn's neck, searching for a pulse. There, faint but there. Evelyn's chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged breaths. Anna grabbed her phone from her pocket, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My grandmother collapsed. She's breathing but she won't wake up. Please, you have to send someone. What's your location? Evelyn's diner on Halsted Street. Please hurry. The operator asked more questions. Anna answered them mechanically, all while keeping her hand on Evelyn's shoulder, as if her touch alone could keep the older woman tethered to life. The timer kept beeping in the background until Anna finally reached up and shut it off. The silence that followed felt worse somehow. The ambulance arrived within minutes, but it felt like hours. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and efficiency. They asked Anna questions she struggled to answer. How old was she? 68 years old. Any medical conditions? A cough. Pills for her lungs. Anna did not know what kind. Why did she not know? They loaded Evelyn onto a stretcher. Her body looked so small beneath the white sheet. So fragile. One of the paramedics, a woman with kind eyes, touched Anna's shoulder. Are you family? Anna hesitated, then nodded. I'm her granddaughter. You can ride with us. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. Anna sat in a plastic chair in the waiting room, her hands clasped tight in her lap. Nurses moved past. Doctors were paged over intercoms. Time stretched and contracted. She did not know if minutes were passing or hours. Finally, a doctor approached. He was young, with tired eyes and a white coat that looked too big for his frame. He sat down beside Anna. "Are you here for Evelyn Brooks?" Anna nodded, not trusting her voice. "I'm Dr. Martinez. I've been treating your grandmother." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We ran some tests. A CT scan of her chest. I'm afraid the results aren't good." Anna felt something cold settle in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "Your grandmother has lung cancer. Stage 4. It's quite advanced. The tumors have spread to both lungs and to her lymph nodes." The words did not make sense at first. They were just sounds, syllables strung together. Then their meaning crashed over her like a wave. "Cancer. Stage 4. Advanced. Can you fix it?" Anna asked. Her voice sounded small, childlike. Dr. Martinez's expression was gentle but firm. "At this stage, treatment options are limited. We can make her comfortable. We can give her time. But the cancer is terminal." "I'm very sorry." Terminal. Anna knew what that word meant. It meant the end. It meant death. It meant losing the only person she had left. "How long?" she whispered. "It's hard to say with certainty. Weeks. Maybe a month or 2 if we're fortunate. But not longer than that." The world tilted. Anna gripped the armrests of her chair to keep from falling. Weeks. A month. That was nothing. That was a blink. That was barely enough time to say all the things that needed to be said. "Can I see her?" "She's awake now. Room 214. Anna found the room at the end of a long hallway. She stood outside the door for a moment, gathering courage. Then she pushed it open. Evelyn lay in the hospital bed, propped up by pillows. Tubes ran from her arms to machines that beeped and hummed. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken. But when she saw Anna, she smiled. It was a weak smile, barely there, but real. "Hey, kiddo." Anna crossed the room and took Evelyn's hand. It felt cold, the bones too prominent beneath papery skin. "You scared me. Scared myself too." Evelyn's voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. She coughed, a wet rattling sound that made Anna flinch. "They tell you?" Anna nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Figured as much. Been feeling it for a while now. Just didn't want to admit it." Evelyn squeezed Anna's hand with what little strength she had. "Listen to me. This is important. Don't talk. You need to rest." "No time for rest." Evelyn's eyes were fierce, urgent. "The diner. You have to keep it running." "Evelyn, I can't." "Yes, you can. You know how. You've been watching me. Learning." Evelyn coughed again, harder this time. When she spoke again, her voice was even weaker. "If this diner dies, she dies twice." Anna understood. Grace. The memorial. The only thing keeping Grace's memory alive was that diner. Those pancakes. That neon sign flickering in the window. "I don't know all the recipes," Anna said desperately. "Then I'll teach you. Every single one. Starting tomorrow. No arguments." And she did. For the next 2 weeks, whenever Evelyn had the strength, she taught Anna everything she knew. How to make the pancake batter just right, not too thick, not too thin. How to know when the griddle was the perfect temperature by flicking water on it. How to flip eggs without breaking the yolks. How to make the chicken soup that Tom loved, with extra carrots and just a pinch of thyme. Anna learned. She took notes in a small notebook, her handwriting cramped and urgent. She practiced in the diner kitchen while Evelyn rested in the back room, too weak now to stand for long. Sometimes Evelyn would call out corrections from her bed. "More salt. Less pepper. You're stirring it too fast." The regulars noticed. They asked questions Anna did not know how to answer. She told them Evelyn was sick. Told them she was resting. Did not tell them she was dying. Could not say those words out loud because saying them would make them real. One afternoon, Anna was practicing Grace's pancakes. The recipe from the card. Evelyn had walked her through it 3 times already, but Anna kept getting it wrong. Too much flour. Not enough vanilla. The texture was off. She stood at the griddle, spatula in hand, tears running down her face. Evelyn appeared in the kitchen doorway, leaning heavily on the frame. She should not have been out of bed. Anna moved to help her, but Evelyn waved her off. "Show me." Anna poured the batter onto the griddle. Watched it bubble and spread. Waited for the edges to set. then flipped it. The pancake was golden brown. Perfect. Evelyn smiled. It was tired but proud. There you go. You've got it now. Evelyn, I can't do this without you. Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think. Evelyn shuffled closer, her breathing labored. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll keep the diner open. No matter what. Promise me it'll always smell like pancakes. Anna's tears fell faster. She wiped them away with the back of her hand. I promise. Good girl. Evelyn reached out and touched Anna's cheek. Her hand was cold but steady. You saved me, you know. That night, when I let you in. I was so lost. So empty. But you gave me a reason to keep going. Gave me a chance to do it right this time. You saved me first. Then we're even. Evelyn smiled again. Then her eyes fluttered closed. Her hand dropped. Anna caught her before she fell. Evelyn, I'm okay. Just tired. Help me back to bed. Anna did. She helped Evelyn shuffle back to the small room, helped her lie down, pulled the blanket up to her chin. Evelyn's breathing was shallow now, each breath a struggle. Her eyes opened one more time. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Rest now, Anna said, her voice breaking. I'll be right here. She sat beside the bed, holding Evelyn's hand. Outside, the diner was quiet. No customers, no sounds of cooking or laughter. Just the ticking of the clock on the wall and the soft, labored breathing of a woman who had given Anna everything when she had nothing. Anna looked at Evelyn's face, memorizing every line, every wrinkle, every detail. This woman who had pulled her from the cold, who had called her granddaughter, who had taught her that family was not just blood but choice. That love could grow in the most unlikely places. That even broken things could find a way to heal. The afternoon light filtered through the window, casting soft shadows across the room. Anna sat there, holding tight to Evelyn's hand, and promised herself she would keep the diner alive. Would make those pancakes every morning. Would keep Grace's memory, and Evelyn's legacy, burning bright. It'll always smell like pancakes. No matter what. That was a promise she intended to keep. Dawn came slowly to Halsted Street. The sky was still dark, tinged with the faintest hint of gray at the edges. The streetlights were still on, casting their orange glow on the empty sidewalks. Inside the diner, everything was quiet. The chairs were still stacked on tables. The register was closed. The griddle was cold. Anna woke to the sound of movement. Soft shuffling footsteps. The creak of a floorboard. She sat up in bed, instantly alert. For a moment, she could not place the sound. Then she realized. Someone was in the kitchen. She threw off her blanket and rushed out of her room. The hallway was dark, but light spilled from the kitchen doorway. Anna's heart pounded as she moved toward it. Evelyn had been so weak these past few days. Barely able to sit up. Barely able to speak. She should not be out of bed. Should not be moving. Anna pushed through the doorway and stopped. Evelyn stood at the stove. She had turned on the griddle. Steam was already rising from its surface. She wore her old apron, the one with the faded stains and the pocket that sagged from years of holding order pads. Her hands moved slowly as she gathered ingredients from the shelves. Flour, sugar, eggs, milk. Evelyn, what are you doing? Anna's voice came out sharp with fear. You should be in bed. Evelyn turned. Her face was pale, almost translucent in the harsh kitchen light. Dark circles ringed her eyes. Her cheeks were hollow. But when she looked at Anna, she smiled. It was a real smile, warm and knowing. Making breakfast, she said simply. Her voice was weak, barely above a whisper, but steady. You can't. You're too weak. Let me help you back to bed. No. Evelyn shook her head. The movement seemed to take great effort. I need to do this. One more time, please. Anna wanted to argue, wanted to insist, but something in Evelyn's expression stopped her. This was important. More than important. This was necessary. Anna nodded slowly and moved to stand beside her. What are we making? Blueberry pancakes. Evelyn's smile widened slightly. Grace's favorite. Anna felt her throat tighten. She had learned this recipe. Had practiced it dozens of times. But she had never made it with Evelyn. Not like this. Not together. Evelyn's hands trembled as she cracked eggs into a bowl. Anna reached out to steady her, but Evelyn waved her off. I can do it. And she did. Slowly, carefully, each movement deliberate and measured. She whisked the eggs until they were frothy. Added milk. Added flour. The whisk scraped against the sides of the bowl in a rhythm that Anna had heard 1,000 times before. But this time it sounded different. Slower. More fragile. Evelyn reached for the bag of blueberries on the counter. Fresh ones. Anna had bought them yesterday at Evelyn's request, not understanding why. Now she understood. Evelyn folded them into the batter gently, so they would not burst. Her breathing was labored. Each breath sounded like it hurt. "Let me," Anna said, reaching for the whisk. "Almost done," Evelyn whispered. She gave the batter one final stir, then set down the whisk. Her hand went to the counter, bracing herself. For a moment, she just stood there, eyes closed, gathering strength. Anna poured oil onto the griddle. It sizzled and spread. The smell filled the kitchen, familiar and comforting. Evelyn ladled batter onto the hot surface. The pancakes began to bubble and spread, golden at the edges, studded with dark blueberries. They stood side by side, watching. Waiting. The kitchen was silent except for the soft hiss of the griddle and Evelyn's ragged breathing. Dawn light was starting to filter through the window above the sink, soft and gray. "Tell me about her," Anna said quietly. "Tell me about Grace." Evelyn's eyes remained on the pancakes, but her expression softened. She was light. That is the best word for her. Light and laughter and energy. She never walked anywhere, always ran, always in motion. Evelyn paused to catch her breath. She loved these pancakes. Would eat them every Sunday if I let her. Said the blueberries tasted like summer. Anna flipped the pancakes. They were perfect. Golden brown with crispy edges, the blueberries leaving purple trails through the batter. "She would have been about your age now," Evelyn continued. Her voice was growing weaker. "If she had lived, I wonder what she would have been like. What she would have become." "She would have been like you," Anna said. "Strong, kind, someone who helps people." Evelyn looked at her then. Really looked at her, and Anna saw everything in that look. Love, pride, gratitude. "Goodbye. You turned out pretty good yourself," Evelyn said. She smiled, that same tired, knowing smile. "Better than good. You're going to be fine, Anna Collins. You're going to do just fine." The pancakes were done. Anna slid them onto a plate. 3 perfect blueberry pancakes, stacked high, steam rising from them in soft white curls. Evelyn stared at them for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched the top pancake gently, as if it were something precious. "Beautiful," she whispered. She turned off the griddle. Then, slowly, she untied her apron. Her fingers fumbled with the knot. Anna helped her, pulling the strings loose. Evelyn folded the apron carefully and set it on the counter. Then she looked around the kitchen. At the pots hanging from their hooks. At the shelves lined with spices. At the prep table where she had chopped thousands of vegetables. At the stove where she had cooked meals for strangers who had become friends. "This is a good place," she said. "A good place to have spent a life." She walked to the back room. Anna followed, one hand hovering near Evelyn's elbow, ready to catch her if she fell. But Evelyn made it on her own. She lowered herself onto the bed with a soft grunt of pain. Anna pulled the blanket up over her legs. "The pancakes," Evelyn said. "Bring them here." Anna did. She set the plate on the small table beside the bed. Evelyn looked at them, and her eyes filled with tears. She reached out and touched one finger to a blueberry, leaving a small indent. "Perfect," she whispered. Just like she would have wanted. The light was growing stronger now. Dawn was breaking properly, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It streamed through the window, falling across the bed in warm bars. Evelyn turned her face toward it, eyes half closed, a small smile on her lips. "You'll do fine, sweetheart," she said. Her voice was barely audible. "You'll do just fine." Anna took her hand. It was so cold, so thin. She squeezed gently, and Evelyn squeezed back. Once, twice. Then her grip loosened. "Thank you," Evelyn breathed. "For everything. I love you," Anna said. The words came out broken, choked with tears. "I love you. Love you too, kiddo." Evelyn's smile widened. "My granddaughter. My Anna." The light grew brighter, filling the room with soft gold. It touched Evelyn's face, smoothing the lines, easing the pain from her expression. She took a breath, then another, each one slower than the last. Shallower, softer. Anna held her hand and watched. Watched the sunlight stream through the window. Watched Evelyn's chest rise and fall. Rise and fall. Rise. And stop. The room was very quiet. The light was very bright. And Evelyn Brooks, who had carried grief for 25 years. Who had found redemption in pancakes and coffee and one freezing girl in a snowstorm, took her last breath and let it go. Anna sat there, holding her hand, tears streaming down her face. Outside, the city was waking. Cars passed. People walked to work. The world kept turning, indifferent and eternal. But inside this small room behind a diner on Halsted Street, something had ended. And something else had begun. Anna looked at the pancakes on the table. 3 perfect blueberry pancakes, still warm, still fragrant. Grace's favorite, made with love one last time. She picked up the plate and carried it to the kitchen. Set it on the counter beside Evelyn's folded apron. The diner needed to open. Customers would come. Life would go on. And Anna would be here to meet it. Not as the lost girl who had stumbled through a snowstorm. Not as the child with nowhere to go. But as Evelyn's granddaughter. As the keeper of Grace's memory. As the one who would make sure the diner stayed open and the pancakes kept cooking and the neon sign kept flickering in the window. She tied Evelyn's apron around her own waist. It was too big, hanging loose on her thin frame. But she pulled the strings tight and knotted them. Then she turned on the griddle and began to prepare for the morning rush. Outside, the sun finished rising. Light flooded Halsted Street, bright and new and full of promise. And inside the diner, the smell of blueberry pancakes filled the air. Grace's pancakes. Evelyn's legacy. Anna's future. 3 lives, connected by grief and love and the simple act of feeding strangers. One had ended too soon. One had just ended. And one was just beginning. A third birth, rising from the ashes of goodbye. 5 years had passed. 5 winters. 5 springs. Anna Collins stood behind the counter of Evelyn's diner, wiping down the chrome surface. She was 18 now. Older. Stronger. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a practical bun. Her hands were scarred from kitchen work. But her eyes were the same. Still dark. Still searching. Still holding memories of snow and loss and love. The diner had changed only slightly. New vinyl on 2 booths. Fresh paint on the walls. But everything else remained the same. The same counter. The same griddle. The same smell of coffee and pancakes that had soaked into the walls. Above the entrance, the neon sign still flickered. Red and yellow letters spelling out Evelyn's Diner. And beneath it, words Anna had paid to restore home of Grace's pancakes. The sign hummed and buzzed, a beacon on Halsted Street. Inside, on the wall behind the counter, hung 3 photographs in matching frames. The first showed Evelyn and Grace, young and smiling. The second showed Evelyn alone, older, standing in the diner kitchen with her arms crossed. And the third showed Anna. Taken on her 18th birthday 2 months ago. She stood in the same spot, wearing the same apron, holding a spatula. Tom had taken the photo. Said it was important to mark the moment. Anna looked at those photographs every day. They reminded her why she was here. Why she woke at 5 in the morning. Why she stayed open late. Why she made Grace's pancakes every Sunday. Even though Grace had died before Anna was born and Evelyn had been gone for 5 years. The diner was busy that December evening. Tom sat at his usual stool, eating meatloaf and reading the newspaper. Margaret was in her favorite booth, working on a crossword puzzle. A couple shared fries by the window. The regulars had become her family. Anna poured Tom a refill without asking. He nodded, never looking up. This was their routine. She moved to Margaret's table. "How's school, honey?" Margaret asked. "Good. Finals next week. You'll do fine. You always do." Margaret patted her hand. Anna smiled and moved back behind the counter. She glanced at the clock. 8:30. Another hour and a half until closing. Then clean up. Then home to the apartment above the diner. Then sleep. Then up again at 5. She did not mind. This was her life now. Her purpose. She was the keeper of the diner. The keeper of the memories. Outside, snow began to fall. Big, fat flakes that drifted down lazily. Anna watched through the window as the street turned white. It was a heavy snow, the kind that would pile up. The kind that made the city quiet and beautiful and dangerous all at once. The couple paid their bill and left. Margaret said goodnight. Tom lingered, helping Anna stack chairs on tables, his movements slower now but still steady. Big storm coming, he said. You should close early. Get home safe. Maybe, Anna said, but she knew she would not. Evelyn had never closed early for weather. Neither would she. Tom put on his jacket and hat. Be careful out there, kid. Always The bell jangled as he left. Anna finished stacking chairs, wiped tables, counted the register. The snow fell harder now, swirling in the wind. She could barely see across the street. Sunshine Bagels had closed years ago. But Evelyn's diner remained. Anna moved to the front window to flip the sign from open to closed. Her hand was on the sign when she saw it. A shape on the corner. Small and dark against the white snow. Not moving. Just standing there, shoulders hunched, head down. Anna's breath caught. She pressed closer to the glass. The shape was a child. A girl, maybe 11 or 12 years old. She wore a thin jacket. No hat. No gloves. She just stood there in the falling snow, shivering. Anna's heart began to pound. She knew this scene. Had lived this scene. 5 years ago, she had been that girl. Standing in the snow. Nowhere to go. About to give up. She did not think. Did not hesitate. She moved to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. The cold air rushed in. The wind carried snow inside. Hey, Anna called out. Her voice was loud, urgent. Hey, you. The girl's head turned slowly. Her face was pale, lips blue with cold. Her eyes were unfocused, glazed. She was hypothermic. Dying. Anna stepped onto the sidewalk. The snow soaked through her shoes. She did not care. She walked toward the girl, hand outstretched. Come with me, Anna said. Not a question. A command. A lifeline. The girl stared at her. Did not move. Anna reached her and put her hand on the girl's shoulder. The girl flinched but did not pull away. Anna could feel her shaking, trembling with cold. She guided her toward the diner, one arm around her thin shoulders, supporting her weight. They reached the door. Anna pushed it open and pulled the girl inside. The warmth hit them both. The girl gasped, and her knees buckled. Anna caught her, lowered her into the nearest booth. She grabbed the wool blanket from behind the counter, the same one Evelyn had used, and draped it over the girl's shoulders. The girl sat there, shaking, eyes wide and frightened. She looked like a trapped animal. Anna knew that look. Had worn it herself once. It's okay, Anna said softly. She knelt down at eye level. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. The girl's lips moved but no sound came out. Anna moved quickly to the kitchen. She ladled soup into a bowl. Chicken vegetable. The same kind Evelyn had given her. She brought it back and set it on the table. Drink this. Slowly. The girl's hands emerged from the blanket. Red and raw, fingernails blue. She picked up the spoon, but her hands shook so badly she could not lift it. Anna took the spoon gently, dipped it into the soup, and held it to the girl's lips. The girl sipped, swallowed, gasped, then opened her mouth for more. Anna fed her slowly, patiently, watching as color began to return to her face. As her shaking began to ease. When the bowl was half empty, the girl whispered something. Anna leaned closer. Thank you. Anna's eyes burned with tears. What's your name? The girl hesitated. Then, so quietly, Lily. Lily. That's a pretty name. Anna sat across from her. I'm Anna. This is my diner. Lily looked around, taking in the red vinyl booths, the chrome counter, the photographs on the wall. Her gaze lingered on the photos. 3 women, 3 generations, 3 stories connected by grief and grace. Where are your parents, Lily? Lily's face crumpled. She shook her head. Gone. Just that one word. But Anna understood everything it meant. She reached across the table and took Lily's hand. It's okay. You don't have to talk about it now. Just eat. Get warm. Lily nodded and picked up the spoon. Her hands were steadier now. She ate the rest on her own while Anna sat watching, remembering. Remembering the cold, the fear, The moment Evelyn had opened the door. The moment her life had changed forever. When the bowl was empty, Lily set down the spoon. She looked at Anna with eyes that were old beyond their years. Eyes that had seen too much. Lost too much. I don't have anywhere to go, Lily whispered. Anna smiled. It was a small smile, sad but real. I know. She stood and held out her hand. Lily looked at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. Anna led her to the back of the diner. To the small room where she had slept 5 years ago. Where Evelyn had offered her shelter. Where everything had begun. The room was clean now, the bed made with fresh sheets. Anna had kept it ready, though she had not known why. Not until now. You can stay here tonight, Anna said. And tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next. Lily stood in the doorway, staring at the bed like she could not believe it was real. Come in, sweetheart, Anna said gently. It's warm in here. Lily stepped inside. Anna closed the door, giving her privacy. She walked back to the main diner and stood at the front window. Outside, the snow continued to fall. The street was white and empty. The neon sign flickered above, red and yellow light reflecting off the snow. Evelyn's diner, home of Grace's pancakes. Anna pressed her hand against the cold glass. 5 years ago, she had stood on the other side of this window, frozen and afraid, staring at the light. And Evelyn had opened the door. Had let her in. Had given her a life. Now it was Anna's turn. To open the door. To offer shelter. To pass on the legacy that Evelyn had given her. The legacy that stretched back to Grace. The legacy of love made tangible. Of grief transformed into kindness. Of doors that stayed open for those who needed them most. Anna looked up at the neon sign. It flickered and hummed, a constant presence, a promise. And in that moment, she understood. This was what Evelyn had meant. This was what the diner was for. Not just to remember the dead, but to save the living. The snow fell. The sign glowed. And inside the diner, 2 girls who had lost everything found something neither had thought possible. A home. A family. A future. Love is unending. It continues. It multiplies. It grows. One door closes, but another opens. One life ends, but another begins. And on Halsted Street, in a small diner that smelled like pancakes and coffee, the cycle turned again. Grace to Evelyn, Evelyn to Anna, Anna to Lily, and on, forever. Sometimes, the family we find means more than the one we're born into. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that warm the soul. This has been Story Theater.